Nothing?
So we have a motion to come out of closed session and recess until 7 o'clock. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion's carried, recess till 7 o'clock. Okay, at 7 o'clock, this December 2021, the Goldsboro City Council regular meeting is called to order. Reverend Bell is not here, so I'm going to ask the Bishop Slater, Mr. Slater, if you would come and give us the benediction, please.
He can do it. He can do it good.
Please rise, and we'll have the pledge of allegiance following.
Shall we pray? Our Father and our God, we thank you for this opportunity, Lord, that we can come together with the meeting of the minds. Father, we ask you for your help, Lord, in making the right decision, being fair, being honest, and being sure on what we're doing. Father, touch the council, touch the mayor, touch all those who are here, touch our city. We need you in this hour. And Father, we thank you even in this holiday season, God, and we give you glory, and we know that you're the reason for the season. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Bishop Slater. Come and pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, you'll call the roll, please.
Mayor Ham,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak,
Present.
Councilmember Jones,
Here.
Councilmember Broadway,
Here.
Councilmember Matthews, Councilmember Gaylor,
Present.
Councilmember Aycock.
Here.
Okay, we're all here for the session. This time, we have the approval of minutes of the work session and the regular meeting of December 6th, 2021. There's a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve minutes.
Second.
Second, the motion was made and second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion's carried. Minutes are approved. We do not have any presentations at this time, so we'll go into public hearing, and we'll start with some special use permits. And Mr. Halton, come on up from our planning department.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
to see you. We have a fairly lengthy list of special use permits and zoning requests tonight. After the public hearing, the Planning Commission is going to convene over to our anteroom, and we will conduct business on behalf of the Goldsboro Planning Commission at that time, instead of waiting till the end of the month since it's the holidays. So they will convene at that time. They will make a recommendation at the end of the meeting and bring back forth to you at the January 10th, 2022 council meeting. So the first up, we'll talk about a request by Miss Alondia Grant for a place of entertainment without ABC permits. The subject property is located on the north side of East Mulberry Street between Center Street and John Street. We'll pull that up for you. So on September 20th, 2021, a public hearing was conducted to consider a request by the applicant for the operation of a place of entertainment with ABC permits for a hookah bar and lounge within the Historic District and Central Business Zoning Districts. The Planning Commission at their meeting held September 27th, 2021 recommended denial without prejudice. The special use permit, as the request did not meet requirements of North Carolina General Statutes regarding freestanding structures. On Monday, October the 4th, 2021, Goldsboro City Council accepted the recommendation of the Planning Commission and denied the applicant's request for a special use permit without prejudice to allow the operation of a place of entertainment based on the fact that the request did not meet the following. Under Section 1.2 authorizations, that the proposal did not meet requirements regarding freestanding structures. Number 2, that the proposal could materially endanger the public health or welfare, and that the proposal could substantially injure the beneficial use of abutting properties. Now the applicant is requesting a special use permit to allow the operation of a place of entertainment, a hookah lounge, without ABC permits. Again, this property is located in the Central Business District at 120 East Mulberry Street. The applicant is proposing to upfit the existing one-story concrete commercial building for the operation of a hookah lounge only. There are no food, beverage, or alcohol sales proposed in conjunction with the request. According to officials with the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, a hookah establishment that is not permitted by the ABC Commission for alcohol sales and is not inspected by local health department for food sales is not regulated by state law. Since the site is located within the historic district, any exterior improvements to the building will be required to receive a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic District Commission. In addition, the applicant will be required to comply with the North Carolina State Building Code before building permits can be issued. Again, if you'll recall, the applicant's floor plan indicated 14 hookah tables that will accommodate up to 56 seats. Restroom storage areas and a hookah prep area also included within the place of entertainment. The days and hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. to 12 a.m., and Saturday to Sunday, 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. No more than 6 employees would be occupying the facility at its heaviest time. Our Unified Development Ordinance specifies that required parking standards would not apply in the central business district because of its location. Since the subject site is located within the area, no off-street parking is required. The following approval criteria apply to proposed places of entertainment without ABC permits. If there is a finding that there is an increase in the volume, intensity, or frequency of the use, where the building occupancy load would be above a safe occupant load, or something to that nature, any of the uses identified that would set forth a violation, then we could always bring back the special use permit from the board to modify, suspend, or revoke the special use permit. Again, we have copies of the floor plan submitted, indicating and including the location, number of all the hookah tables, and the number of seats that will be proposed. And we do have a satisfactory statement setting forth the method and frequency of litter collection and disposal submitted on the site plan. At this time, again, the Planning Commission will have a recommendation at the January 10th, 2022 meeting. Are there any questions of City Council tonight before we go to public hearing?
Can I hold that till we have someone that may want to speak on behalf of this? If there's anyone here that wants to speak on this special use permit, please come forward. You'll need to be sworn in. Anyone wish to speak? If not, Council, do you have any questions regarding this? Okay, there are no questions. This matter is closed. Go ahead to issue 1421, Heather Giddings.
Yes, sir. We'll move on to the next special use permit request by Ms. Heather Giddings for a bingo game establishment located at the Little River Shopping Center. Most of you may have already be aware of this location. The applicant is requesting a special use permit for the operation of the bingo hall located at 1316A West Branson Street within the shopping center zoning district. The existing Little River Shopping Center site plan was approved back in 1987. Since that time, City Council approved special use permits in 2009 and in 2015 for the operation of a bingo game establishment within the shopping center. COVID-19 forced the closure of the previous bingo operation in June of 2020. According to the city's UDO, all permits for special uses shall become invalid if the use for which the permit was issued is discontinued, abandoned, or ceases for 180 days or 6 months. The applicant is proposing to reestablish the bingo operation and has submitted a floor plan designating an assembly area consisting of 17 tables and 68 seats, which was the original floor plan approved years ago. Also included are areas for office, storage, concessions, and restrooms for customers and employees. Hours of operation 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. Monday through Sunday. Number of employees not to exceed 4. Refuse collection provided privately. No action necessary. The Planning Commission will have a recommendation at the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay, this is an open public hearing on SU 1421. Is there anyone in here that wishes to speak on this issue? Anyone wishes to speak? There appears to be no one speaking. Does the council have any questions of this? If not, we'll close this item and go to item D, SU 15-21.
The applicant, B.R. Stone, is requesting an accessory dwelling which qualifies as a special use permit to be located at the southwest corner of Sunset and Michelle Dawn Drive, more specifically known as 100 Michelle Dawn Drive. According to the city's UDO, accessory dwellings are permitted in all single-family zoning districts or developed lots, with the exception of the agricultural zoning district. After the attainment of a special use permit, we have approval criteria for accessory dwellings. They must comply with all applicable local, state, and federal housing codes. Only one accessory dwelling may be permitted per lot. The accessory dwelling or accessory apartment shall not exceed 40% of the square footage of the livable area of the principal structure, or 1,100 square feet of gross floor area, whichever is less. An accessory dwelling shall be sited to the rear of the principal structure. All accessory dwellings shall meet the setback requirements established for the principal structure, which the district in which they are located. The exterior of the accessory dwelling shall be compatible with the principal residence in terms of color, siding, roof pitch, window detailing, roofing materials, foundation or skirting appearance. Manufactured homes shall not be pulled up to or attached to the principal residence and be considered an accessory dwelling. Number 5, where there is no public sanitary sewer service to the accessory dwelling, the county health department shall approve sanitary sewer services. Currently, the applicant has begun construction, as you see on the slide, of a 2-story, 3,242 square foot single-family dwelling upon the property. In addition to the new single-family dwelling, the owner proposes to construct a 676 square foot accessory dwelling or guest house to be located in the rear yard of the structure. As you see here on Michelle Dawn Drive, which is to your left, is the front of the home. And let's see, there's a floor plan showing the accessory structure at the rear of the property. It is a corner lot. Let's see. Located in a residential R12 zoning district. Staff has informed the applicant of the fact that the proposed accessory dwelling requires a special use permit and must be constructed to meet the minimum requirements of the North Carolina State Building Code, as well as any supplemental regulations of our city UDO for accessory dwellings. If the applicant's request for a special use permit is approved, building elevations, a site plan, floor plan, and construction specifications shall be submitted and approved by city staff before building permits can be issued. Again, we'll have a recommendation by the planning commission on the 10th of January.
There's no action on the part of the council this time, but I'll ask if there's anyone in here that wishes to speak on issue 15-21. Anyone wishing to speak on that item? If so, please come forward. There does not appear to be anyone coming to speak. So I'll close the hearing on that, and we'll move to a zoning application Z12-21.
We'll move straight from our special use permits to rezoning requests, a change of zone, which does require a public hearing. First one you'll see tonight is Z1221 by Ms. Sheila Cannon. She's looking at rezoning property from R9 to residential R6. The subject property was previously occupied by a single-family dwelling, formerly addressed as 1405 Humphrey Street. In 2013, the home was demolished and the lot was cleared. The applicant requests to rezone the property to R6 in order to construct a 2-family dwelling, a duplex, upon the property. The applicant owns the subject property as well as the property directly west of the subject property and addressed as 1403 Humphrey Street. In order to comply with the development regulations for a duplex, the applicant will be required to recombine the properties according to the residential 6 zoning requirements. If the property is rezoned, site and landscape plans will be required and approved by city officials before construction permits can be issued. As you see there, to the north, south, east, and west of the property is is all zoned residential in nature. Property just directly west of that property, there's enough land there to where if the two parcels are recombined, 1405 can be rezoned and meet the R6 development standards for a duplex to be built there. Subject property is clear and vacant. The city's land use plan recommends high-density residential development for the property. The subject property is not located in a flood hazard area, and city water and sewer are available to serve the property. No action is necessary. Planning Commission will have a recommendation for the January 10th meeting.
Okay, this is a public hearing for E12-21, request for rezoning. Is anyone here to speak for this item? Anyone desiring to speak? There does not appear to be anyone, so we'll close the public hearing and move to item F.
And our last rezoning request will be by Mr. Jason C. This piece of property is located at the closest proximity to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base on the east side of South Berkeley Boulevard, northeast of the intersection of East Elm and South Berkeley Boulevard, or Wright Brothers Avenue. So on December the 9th, 1986, City Council approved the rezoning change from neighborhood business to general business conditional district, limiting the subject property to the following permitted uses in the general business zoning district: for retail sales, appliance installation and repairs, barber shops, pawn shops, restaurants, bakeries, and apparel, tailoring and alterations. On July 13th, 2020, City Council approved a rezoning change to general business conditional district to amend the permitted uses allowed for the site by adding pet grooming, laundromats, dry cleaning personal, health spas, tanning salons, fitness centers, martial arts studios, nail salons, copying, printing services, offices to include business, medical and professional, and travel agencies. Now the applicant is requesting a rezoning change to general business conditional district to amend the permitted uses allowed for the site by adding one permitted use. He does have an applicant that would like to have an arcade as a place of entertainment without any ABC permits as a permitted use within the zoning district. So let's see. As you can see, the site is zoned general business. You have about 35,000 square feet of space there where the existing shopping center exists. The subject property is occupied by a commercial strip center consisting of 7 leasable tenant spaces. The city's land use plan recommends commercial and mixed use development for the property. Subject property is not located in a special flood hazard area. City water and utilities are available to serve the property. Seymour Johnson base officials have been contacted regarding the change of zone and have no issues or concerns. No action is necessary at this time. The Planning Commission will have a recommendation for you on January the 10th.
Okay, reference rezoning application Z1321. Is anyone here to speak for that item? For or against? Council members have any questions? I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Place of entertainment is a very broad statement. Do we know any more detail about that?
Yes, sir, Mayor. At this time, they're planning on limiting or actually adding use as an arcade and arcade only. He has 2 rooms shown on a floor plan. One is for where occupants would actually be in a room. For lack of a better word, some of these technologies are used in gameplay now, where you actually wear a mask and have a video. Well, really not even a video screen, just a large room where one person would.
VR.
I'm sorry.
VR.
VR, yes, sir. Thank you. That's exactly what it is. Virtual reality game, and the other room will be occupied by, I would say, 4 or 5 gaming machines or gaming stations, and Each one would have its own monitor for playing either individual or group gaming. It's not a very large space at all. You're probably talking about 700 square feet of space, but we didn't have it anywhere listed, of course, in the present zoning district, and without the component of alcohol sales or any food sales there. We felt comfortable with this request and with the individual, as well as the owner who lives in California, Mr. Adams. We've dealt with him and the applicant in the past, and at this time, we don't see any issues going forward.
So, place of entertainment and gaming machines brings the question of gambling.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There will be absolutely no gambling associated
Absolutely
or any, yes, what we're used to seeing when it comes to internet cafes, things of that
Right.
nature. This would not involve any machines for those purposes.
Okay, I can tell you from firsthand conversation, that would be severely frowned upon by the base commander.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. And the applicant and the owner are fully aware of the city's stance upon
Especially in that
that use.
location.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, that concludes the public hearing issues. Planning Commission members here may be excused at this time. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, council, and happy holidays.
You too.
Thank you.
That's the first time we've had the planning commission here in a long time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the consent agenda. We moved item G, neighborhood plan property.
Public comment period?
Public comment.
Public comment? Public comment?
I'm sorry. Any public comment? Any public comment? There is none. So we move to the consent agenda. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Keep me on track.
Yes, sir. So consent agenda items H through K are presented for council approval. G was moved to the items requiring individual action.
Is there a motion to approve the items H through K on the consent agenda?
I move that we approve items H through K in the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sorry. Mayor Ham?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Broadway?
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews?
Yes.
Councilmember Gaylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Acott?
Yes.
Okay, those items are approved. Next item is the items requiring individual action. So we'll move to item G, which is the neighborhood plan property transfer. And I believe we have someone from downtown development to speak to that.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll try to be brief. I think I'm the last thing keeping you guys from the holidays, so try to be mindful of that. As you said, I have item G, the neighborhood plan property transfer. Preservation North Carolina has historically worked in cooperation with the City of Goldsboro and the Downtown Goldsboro Development Corporation to save our historic structures and convert them into functioning, sufficient owner-occupied residences. This effort has been an integral part of our neighborhood revitalization plan strategy to take a first proactive step in the development of viable neighborhoods surrounding our commercial downtown core of the city. This plan was approved by the council in 2006, and city departments including planning, inspections, downtown development, finance, and the manager's office have all worked together, including partners with Preservation North Carolina and Self-Help towards the goals set out by this plan. 2 properties, 1 historic house and 1 vacant lot located at 403 and 405 West Mulberry Street, were acquired by PNC with support from the City of Goldsboro in 2006 for the purpose of advertising to potential developers while maintaining protective covenants to ensure the historic features of the properties were secured. This home is considered significant to our certified local historic district and contributing according to the historic property inventory as well. When PNC was not successful at identifying a suitable buyer, the city worked with PNC to have the properties transferred back to city ownership in 2020, with the intent of passing them on to the DGDC. The DGDC, as the city's nonprofit development partner, has historically taken on PNC properties for the purpose of marketing for historic preservation in accordance with the city's neighborhood plan. As was the intent when the properties were acquired from PNC, the city now wishes to transfer 403 and 405 West Mulberry Street to the DGDC in accordance with General Statute 160A-266B, citing the conveyance of property to historic preservation organizations with historic covenants. The transfer is to be made in return for services provided by the DGDC to properly market the properties in accordance with the neighborhood plan. Additionally, 4 vacant substandard lots on North Virginia Street have been requested for transfer under the same statute, including 204, 206, 208, and 210 North Virginia Street. These properties, located in the same historic neighborhood plan area, will be marketed in a similar manner as the West Mulberry properties for the purpose of development and neighborhood preservation in accordance with the plan. It is recommended by motion that the properties be transferred. Those include 403 and 405 West Mulberry Street, 206, 208, and 210 North Virginia Street, and 204 North Virginia Street, contingent upon approval by the county as it is jointly owned. All properties will be transferred to the DGDC for the purpose of historic preservation in return for the services provided by the organization to properly market for development in accordance with the neighborhood plan, and subject to conditions and covenants stated in the attached resolution. So you've got before you a resolution for the transfer of the properties, and you also have the historic covenants that would be transferred with the properties onto the next conveyance. Any questions?
Yeah, you got some? I have a few, and first of all, I want to thank you so much for the conversation that we had this week, and
Of course.
I did say that if I had any questions, I would call you, and I do have some.
Okay.
And I want to apologize for reading from my notes, because I want to make sure that I state everything from what I've read in the documents.
Sure.
Okay, so now, the neighborhood revitalization plan was approved by the council
Correct.
in 2006.
Mhm.
Can you provide me with the housing outcomes derived from 2006 plan, such as the number of vacant lots, housing units, and historical structures transferred by the city to DGDC under the plan that was dated in 20?
In 2006.
Yes.
So the neighborhood plan has been worked on by multiple entities in the city. So downtown development being one entity, but also planning, inspections, the police department, the fire department, and they've recently had monthly meetings, probably since the plan was put together. So I don't have those numbers with me. However, there is what's called a problem house list that documents all of the houses in the neighborhood plan. And what has happened with those properties. If the property has been raised, it's noted. If the property has been rehabbed, it's noted. So all that information is in there. I can tell you that DGDC does have a successful track record with partnering with the city as the city's nonprofit partner in revitalizing downtown. And some recent examples, not necessarily in the neighborhoods around downtown, but recent examples of how we were able to partner and successfully put properties back into production are the 200 North John Street block, where our office is currently. That entire block was put back into production with support from the DGDC, as well as currently the corner of John Street and Walnut Street. That is 4 historic properties. So if you can envision John Street without those 8 unique historic structures, that's what would happen if the DGDC did not step in to help. So the DGDC has a proven track record of partnering to reserve our historic structures. We have worked in the neighborhoods, and one example of how we worked within the neighborhood plan was early on. I want to say, and this was before my time, so excuse my dates, but I want to say that the properties were completed in 2010. As part of the neighborhood plan, we worked with self-help to acquire properties on John Street and develop on those properties. The goal was at the time to make those affordable housing opportunities, but what self-help found was that they could not find affordable housing buyers. The houses actually ended up selling for market rate. but we did partner with them to put structures on vacant properties, and they were done in a way that was compliant with the historic standards and fit the neighborhood around them.
Okay,
And they're still occupied.
How many were converted to functional?
In that example,
sufficient
3.
Yeah.
In that example, 3.
Okay.
And I can tell you that historic preservation is a very slow-moving process. So, we started with this neighborhood plan in 2006, and it's taken that long to, one, create the plan. So I look at that as the first step in making a difference in the neighborhood. So you've got the plan created, and then it's taken that long to start packaging and acquiring properties. At the time the neighborhood plan was developed, the city set aside a revolving fund of $100,000 to help with issues of property acquisition, shoring up properties that maybe just needed a little bit of fixing up to turn them over into developable properties. But that's taken 15 years. So, this is a very slow-moving process. So I look at this transfer of properties as kind of getting that plan in a way over the finish line. So many city entities have worked on this project, and they've worked with a trusted partner in DGDC to help get us through this process. So now we're at a point, we've learned through the process of the neighborhood plan that scope is important. So a couple of years ago, with direction from the council, the neighborhood plan group kind of developed a scope within that plan to focus on Virginia Street and the area that we've outlined in this transfer of properties. So we understand that scope is important, and we also understand that scale is important. One house at a time is a great way, but it's a long way. It takes a long time to see results. So this proposition right now, I find, is a way to combine scale and scope to make a true difference in the neighborhoods around downtown, which the city set out to do as a priority of the city.
Okay, so you're saying that none were able to be sold at affordable housing?
They were not. Not of those 3, no ma'am.
Okay. Once the functioning sufficient owner was secured, how did you do a rental rate?
No, those were sold to owner occupants.
Okay,
okay. What the neighborhood plan group determined as a priority within the plan was to focus on owner occupancy, and that's because historic homes, you live in a historic home, are costly to maintain.
They are.
So it really takes a sympathetic investor and a sympathetic buyer to understand that when they move into that home, but also to maintain it. And if you look further into your covenants, the maintenance of those historic properties is required. So to even be in those historic properties, to own them, you have to maintain them.
Okay.
So that's why owner occupancy is important.
And I had some questions about the Virginia Street properties.
Okay.
204, 206, 208, and 210, are they adjoining?
They are not. They
They're not.
are all separate substandard lots. They are all next to each other, but by the property deed, they're all individual properties.
Okay, because I didn't have time to look up the details.
That's okay.
Will these Virginia Street properties be marketed as individual properties or marketed as, so you said they're not adjoining. So how will they be marketed? Will they be marketed as at market rate or affordable housing?
Okay. So I think the question of how they will be marketed, I think you're asking in terms of there being a house on the property. So as in terms of how the property will be marketed and sold after it's developed, I really can't say. What I can say is that the city's role, as well as the DGDC as a partner, is to ensure that any development is done according to the city's codes and the historic standards. And the DGDC as a partner will ensure that that happens, and the goal will be to do that in the most affordable way possible. So I can't necessarily say what the end use is going to be and what the structure will be, but we will take into consideration as the DGDC to transfer the properties and then turn them over to eventual use and development. Our goal will be to do that within those historic standards and at the most affordable rate possible.
Okay, so you said that the plan that I talked about that the city council approved in
Mhm.
206. You're saying that I can find this on the website?
I don't know if you can find it on the website, but I'm sure planning can provide that.
Okay,
don't
so
know where.
I would like to have a copy of previous materials used for all the vacant lots, housing units, and historical structures transferred to the city by DGDC under this plan. I would like to see that.
Okay.
Has there been a return investment or marketing on the vacant lots, houses, and units of the historical structures that DGDC has been able to retain?
I would say naturally on the vacant lots, yes, there's a return on investment because you have actual property on those once vacant properties. The goal, of course, is to generate a return on investment, and the best way to do that is to develop it. So the agenda memo that we have before us is the transfer of 6 properties, 5 of them are vacant. So naturally, by developing those properties, you will have a return on investment.
Okay. Okay, well, the documents that I was trying to gather for discussion indicates a protected
Covenant?
covenant.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
For historic and preservation purposes. Is it possible for you to, if we consider this, to add the good faith covenant, whereas we would say that we would work with affordable housing as well whenever you are developing the properties?
I don't know that you can assign that to the covenant per se. You can review the covenants that are attached.
Okay. I didn't.
It does say, or there will be a reversion clause. So if the DGDC is not able to put these properties back into productive use, the properties can be reverted back to the city.
Okay. Well,
Councilwoman.
I would,
Just in case you want to browse it real quick.
okay.
So the covenants, excuse me, and I don't have them in front of me, but the covenants outline what is expected of whoever owns the property next. So it's essentially an agreement between the DGDC and future owners of the property that they're going to stick to those covenants by way of adhering to the historic standards. Anything that is in the exterior or the interior of the property that was historic, so it lists things on there like windows, doors, trim, moldings, things like that that make it historically unique. Those are to be protected by the covenant. And essentially it outlines the reversion clause as well. So the DGDC is to be notified if a new structure is put on any of these properties, to be notified of the plans. If the property is sold, the DGDC is to get first right of refusal. So the goal is to ensure that those covenants are always protected, and then you guys as the city, that your priorities are protected by way of transferring the properties to the DGDC.
Ms. Fonseca, I'm pardon, may I?
No, yeah, go ahead, because I'm,
Take your time.
mhm.
Are any of these properties currently, do any of these properties currently have people living in them or on them?
They don't.
They do not?
They're all vacant.
Are any of these properties currently generating tax revenue for the city?
They are not. In fact, they are costing the city money through maintaining the property. So, as I said, 5 of the properties are vacant. So the city is having to maintain them, cut the grass, pay the insurance on the PNC property as well. So they're just costing the city money. And we talked about return on investment. So the sooner we can put them back into productive use, productive meaning they're paying back into the tax base, the sooner we can turn those over for profit to the city. Thank you.
Well, this, I should have read this covenant before today, but I would like to see the plan before I make any decision, because it is in my district, and I understand, let me make it clear, that I understand that we need to grow Goldsboro, and we want that area to look good. As a matter of fact, I was speaking with one of my friends in Mulberry, when and if we ever get the train, I would like to see that area looking good, you
Mhm.
know, because I know I would not like to step off a train and see that is an eyesore. But I still have a few more concerns. So I would like to table this since it is in my district, to allow me to look at it, or, you know, I don't know how the rest of the council is feeling, but for me, I would like to.
Okay. Just to give you a little bit of history on the plan, essentially, I don't have the plan in front of me. Oh, I do. I have a copy of the plan.
Okay.
I would like to see that too, so, I mean, I support tabling this issue because,
Thank you.
or not this issue, but this topic of discussion, because I have several questions as well, and I don't think that, and I know you're very versed on this stuff, so I'm not saying that you won't answer those questions, but
Sure.
the information that I'm requesting from some of my questions, I don't think I'll have it tonight, and I don't feel comfortable making a decision without seeing some of that information.
Okay.
But I do have a couple questions that we could possibly ask tonight
Sure.
that will give us, okay. I'm not very familiar with the Neighborhood Plan Committee.
Mm-hmm.
So forgive my ignorance, because I don't think I've ever heard of it until I saw this agenda item, actually. My question, though, is as I was reading through the resolution, it talked about the PNC and how they didn't find a suitable buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what is the criteria? What makes a suitable buyer, right? And then I see that the city took back ownership. So when we have property that goes into our surplus, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have a certain process that we follow when we try to sell or when we get ready to bid out those properties. So where is it written, or where is the agreement that once the city took back ownership of these properties, that it was automatically going to be transferred to the DGDC? Because that's what it says here. The intention was to pass it on and to transfer it to your organization.
Right.
So I would like to see where that is, you know, and I looked up the general statute just now, and it talked about private, you know, negotiations and different things like that. So let's say that the DGDC acquired these properties, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could they use a third party or some, because I know DGDC has a nonprofit within themselves, if I'm saying it correctly, called Communities, Inc. It's a branch
Separate,
of.
but they funded that organization, but they're not part of DGDC.
Okay, cool. So I know what Communities, Inc. does, and it kind of sounds very similar to what we're trying to do here. So is it possible that once your organization acquires these properties, we can pass them on to, and I'm saying we can pass them on to that organization or possibly another organization that does the very same? And I'm just going to ask you these questions.
No, you're
Erin.
fine.
So,
No,
okay.
that's a great question. I hope I'm tracking. I think, is that it?
I know I asked you like 4 right then, so
That's
yeah,
okay. That's all right. So in terms of DGDC and what they plan to do with it, when DGDC acquires the property, the goal is going to be to turn it over for development. The DGDC is not interested in being a development partner. They are simply interested in identifying the end use and the timeline. So they would use their network of vetted developers and anyone else in that field to determine the right entity that is respectful of our historic standards to pass the property on to. So they would seek out proposals of what they would do with the properties once they got them, and they would seek out timeline. So as with any other property or project that the DGDC has been involved in moving property over with, we would be looking at timeline and use as our priorities. So as far as communities and what they would do, I really can't speak to what they would do, but certainly they could be put to use as a part of a development project. But again, that's not the goal of DGDC getting involved to transfer the properties. The goal is just to do something about them. So we talk about the neighborhood plan. You said you hadn't seen it, and really it hasn't been very active. So it was put together in 2006, and at that time, city leaders were looking to find ways to work in neighborhoods around downtown. They realized that a lot of properties had fallen into blighted states, and that downtown at that time really didn't do it any favors. So what we've learned through the process of planning and getting awards or awarded funding is that planning is very key. So in 2006, the neighborhood plan was created. There were multiple downtown stakeholders at the table in terms of departments. So as I said, planning, inspections, downtown development, the city manager, the city attorney, the police department, they were all at the table and agreed on what the plan should look like. And they knew that they couldn't do it themselves, but they needed to have partners to come alongside them. So initially the goal was to work with people like PNC, Preservation North Carolina, and Self-Help, and then partner with DGDC to make sure that all of the protective covenants are honored. So that really has been the goal since 2006, and this group has continued to work on the plan. After that, of course, came the Downtown Master Plan, which heavily references that downtown neighborhood plan, and the goal is still to see that happen. And city leaders in the last 15 years, their priority beyond revitalizing downtown and our commercial core was to see the neighborhoods come along with them, knowing that one has a direct impact on the other and vice versa. So what we want is a thriving neighborhood around downtown. The neighborhood plan encompasses all of those areas around downtown, and then what we called a neighborhood plan refresh. That group in 2019 put pen to paper and said, okay, we're never going to get a lot done if we don't focus in a certain area. So like I said, they revised their scope. They decided to focus on one area at a time. And I can't say exactly why they chose Virginia Street. We did have some vocal property owners that lived over there that wanted to see change. With good reason. There are some PNC properties that are concentrated over there that need a lot of work. So that's where we come in. So the DGDC has always had their eye on the city's priorities. And within our annual work plan, this is a goal to move into the neighborhoods around downtown.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that answered your questions.
Just two more questions.
Okay.
And I don't think one of them will be particularly directed towards you, but I want to go back to the resolution. In the first one, the city council hereby declares the properties as surplus and authorizes the transfer of the following properties, and then it lists the properties. I guess my question maybe for the city manager or Mr. Murphy would be, being that we have ownership of those properties, they are in our surplus, how do we bypass our normal bidding process to possibly bid these out to other people who want to buy them? Instead, we just put it in our surplus and then we transfer it to their organization. Can you justify that process and what that looks like? Mr. Murphy?
Well, specifically, which properties?
Well, it says it's listing 403, 405 West Mulberry, and 204, 206, 208, and 210. And I also recognize that they said the county is going to have to give some approval too because they're joint owned. So
For one of the properties.
one of the properties is joint owned. So what does that look like? Because it's not our normal process to have surplus and then just give it away.
So is that within the city, the downtown?
Yes.
They're in the
Yes.
historic district.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So traditionally, when you have properties that's located within the downtown district, 100% of those properties are handled through the downtown development office.
Okay.
Prior to Aaron, it was Julie. Anytime I considered selling one of those properties, I got a stiletto up my rear end. It happens. But that's the way the process is designed. Now, if there's a scope outside of that, I don't know about it. But traditionally, if you're looking at a property that's considered standard or conforming, then it will meet the setback requirements and then be sold for 50% of the tax value. That's what you're referring to. How can you put these properties that are within the district, how can you sell them to the open marketplace?
Right.
Well, yes, thank you for sharing that process. But I think my question was more so, we are skipping that process and we are automatically transferring these properties to the DGDC. How are we doing that? And can you provide me with the ruling and the policy that says that that's okay?
I cannot. I'm just not familiar with that process.
That's General Statute 168-266.
Is that the one that
That's the one
is
she
referenced
cited,
in
yeah.
here?
And what it allows the city to do for historic preservation purposes is to transfer the property to a nonprofit like the DGDC, along with covenants and restrictions to ensure the property will then be preserved and or utilized in a way that is consistent with the properties around it and preserve the historical nature of either the property, the building that's on it or the properties around it. So that's an exception in a way to do that without going through upset bid process and, or any other process as far as the sales goes.
But Mr. Lawrence, you said preservation of properties, but what about the lots that are empty, they don't have a property owner?
They have to build something that's gonna be in conformity with what's around it.
But what I'm saying is, if there's not a property owner at the time, like what she was questioning, I mean, yeah, the builder could bid on an empty lot if that general statute weren't in place. Say it's a vacant lot, there's not a building on it, but at least the person will have an option of bidding on that lot and then build their own house that will conform to that standard. But it seems like that is left out of the loop with that statute. If there's a vacant lot, that person might hire a contractor that can build it aesthetically to blend in with the, you know, historical. But it seemingly that statute kind of throws that out for the question for a vacant lot. I can understand if a house is on it, and you know you have to be in compliance with everything around it. But if there's a vacant lot, there's no structure on it, you're still foregoing that bidding process for a person that may possibly build to that standard.
Well, they have to because you're gonna attach those restrictions to the deed.
Well, I understand that, but I'm saying on a vacant lot where there's nothing, that person is not even allowed to bid, and there's not even a structure there at that time. You see what I'm saying?
No, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So I guess that's
why it's in front of, that's why the issue's in front of the council. It's your decision on whether you want to go through this process and transfer the property to DGDC, and having them then try to market it to someone or builder, contractor that's going to come in and do something with it. Because right now the land's just sitting there.
Yes, sir.
Well, I wish it was presented that way.
You not
but it
do that
wasn't.
and then it be sold another way.
I hate that.
I got you.
Because as I'm reading the statute, I wish that you just would have said it that way, that that's what you were wanting. In my mind, it was presented that this is our option. But we have 5 options. So it seems, according to the statute. I don't know if anybody else had a chance to read it, but I think that we should table this because thank you for your presentation, Erin, and all the information that you shared. I just want to ensure that the process is done right, and if there, you know,
Yes,
I just would like a little bit more time to
Sure.
Yeah,
read.
I would
understand
like to table it so I could have a better chance, as I said before.
I mean, in all due respect, and I understand what you're thinking, but we've kicked this issue, kicked this can down the road for at least 6 or 7 years. We got a property sitting over there on Mulberry Street that we've gone back and forth with PNC. We got property sitting on John Street with PNC. And what do we got? We got 4 vacant lots that we're arguing over that are gonna be vacant. We're gonna mow them. We're gonna, I don't know how long we can keep looking for covenants and everything else when we go ahead and just transfer that property. Maybe I understand your hesitancy. I agree with that. But I also know we've done this for 5 or 6 years with the same property. And
Well,
all you
what-
gotta do is ride down North Virginia Street and you don't see anything.
With
Well, no.
three weeks is not gonna make any difference on
I
that.
agree.
And with all
Yes.
due respect,
You wanna do it. I'm just throwing my 2 cents.
with all
in
due
there.
respect, that really didn't help much because now I'm really concerned as to why if you've been dealing with this issue and you've personally been sitting on the board and we haven't decided to do it yet, gives me more cause for alarm as to why I want to really look into this
I'm
more.
just saying.
So
that
thank
we
you
can
for sharing
sit
that.
and look
Well,
at-
I
look
just,
at
I
that
don't
overall.
see why, if I just got up here, and there's, no disrespect to you or anyone else that disagrees with me, but if we've done this for 6 years, I cannot see why we cannot table this until next month, when I have more time to look at this plan. And I do apologize, I did not look at this plan. I was busy studying the other documents to make sure that I crossed all my zeros and, I don't feel comfortable as,
If you don't, then we won't do it. I'm just.
Councilwoman, that wasn't the plan. We haven't seen the plan yet. So I think Madam Clerk is going to try to get that information to us, the actual neighborhood plan that they were previously discussed, as well as the refresh from 2019 that Ms. Aaron spoke about. If you could get us that. What you just read was the covenants. So you don't have the
yeah, I'm
plan.
saying I haven't even
Okay.
seen this. right here.
Yeah, me
So
either.
this is a plan,
You would also ask for updates on the houses within the plan footprint.
Yes.
So I'll provide, I'll work with planning to make sure we get an update. I think that would be helpful for you all to see the condition that a lot of these properties are in, because while you said, this is not the only way, it's not the only way. It is a very important way to maintain the character of the neighborhood. That is what we're after as the DGDC. That's what we're after as the Downtown Development Department. And we've heard that the neighborhoods around downtown are a priority of the cities. So this is DGDC answering to that priority. And as I said, this is scale and this is scope. So, one house at a time. Councilman Pollock, you mentioned bidding it out to another developer. By actually putting these into a package where we can put them out for a bid for one development, we're more likely to get true progress much faster. So that's really the purpose of asking for this transfer of the properties. So,
Well,
thank
I
you.
move that we table this until we can have more information.
I'm not going to vote against tabling it, but if I may. The general statutes give cities very few really powerful options to develop themselves in constructive ways, as opposed to being merely at the whims of the market. And one of the ways that we are authorized to be able to select properties and select buyers to ensure that they're a good fit for the planning in place for the city and ensuring that it is going in the direction that our 2-decade-old plans and established relationships have all agreed that they need to go is through these tools, one of them being for historic preservation. It takes a couple of decades for ownerships to transfer and for the opportunity to acquire these properties to all come to pass. It takes a long time for various things for families and heirs and everyone to figure out who owns what, and then them all coalesce around the idea of allowing the city, or in some cases the city imposing its will due to taxes and all the other things that go about the acquisition of properties. Another thing that the city can do in other parts of the city that don't have the piece of being able to use the historic guidelines for it is in other parts of the city where that we see the need for economic development in a certain way that pays homage to the history of the area, to the culture of the area, is through other economic development plans. And I would encourage this council to look towards economic development plans for other parts of the city as well. And when we draft those plans, that we commit to, when the opportunity falls in our lap to finally make movement on them, that we do so at that time as well. And this is it's a well drafted out proposal. It's something that has taken a lot of time to come to. And I hope that as we take some time to really consider this over the next 3 weeks, over the holidays, I hope that we're able to come back with some clearer hearts and just be able to support DGDC and its work that this council has tasked it with doing over the last almost 20 years of its existence. So, thank you, Mr. Unsecker.
Thank
Okay, so
you.
we have a motion to table this matter until I believe, January 10th meeting. Is that right, Madam Clerk? Is there a second?
I don't have a problem with that.
Second.
Now, the motion made and second. All in favor of tabling the
Discussion?
motion? Sorry?
Discussion?
Okay, we've got 3 seconds. Okay, so the motion has been seconded.
She said discussion, sorry.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Is there a motion to table, excuse me?
No, is there any
all
more
in favor of
discussion?
tabling this item to January 10th, please raise your hand.
Yeah. Discussion.
It's okay. It's okay.
We'll table.
We've got 4
We'll table.
votes, okay. All opposed?
I vote right.
Okay. Motion's carried, we'll table this issue to January 10th.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron.
Okay, that takes care of items requiring individual action. Next item is city manager's report.
Yes, sir. every supplier of water operating a public water system, treating and furnishing water from a surface water source shall create and implement a source water protection plan. The supplier of the water shall certify that a source water resiliency and response plan has been created and implemented, and that the water system's governing body has been advised of this. The council is therefore advised the city source water protection plan has been created by Withers and Ravenel and implemented by the city. This is merely a notification that's required before we can sign off on a plan, which is very thick. If anybody would like to read it, we can get it to you, but this is a document for our public utilities to ensure our source water. I'd also like to recognize some recent retirements. Mr. Randy Guthrie submitted his retirement letter this past week. His last day will be December 31st. I'd like to personally thank Randy for all he's done for the city over the last 17 years. He's been a mentor to me and many others, and he will certainly be missed. You saw Kenny Talton earlier today. He was recently selected to be our next planning director. Please congratulate Kenny when you see him. Mr. Marty Anderson will be retiring at the end of this month as well. Bobby Kroon will be the interim city engineer, and a resolution will be read next for Marty. I was fortunate to attend Wreaths Across America this past weekend at Eastern Carolina State Veterans Cemetery. It was very well supported by the volunteer organizations. A true pleasure to be a part of in recognizing our veterans at the cemetery. And then lastly, Christmas holiday. Our offices will be closed the 23rd, 24th, and 27th. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm going to start round the horn, so to speak. Ms. Jones, would you like to speak?
Okay. Well, first, I would like to do a shout out to Bobby Kroon, because I had concerns, my constituents had some concerns about the speed on Mercer Street, because I love kids, and there are some autism kids that live there, and sometimes they're out in the road because they just like to play out there. That's part of them, and we were able to get some speed signs out there, slow and stop, and that really made me feel really good, because I did watch, and there were people speeding. I sat over there on the side, and there were people speeding, and we tried to, keep his children out of the street, but sometimes they do go out there. So I want to thank him so much for moving on it. He got it, and I'm happy about that. I also would like to thank this. A lot of people didn't want their names called, and I'm not going to call anyone's name, but the warm thoughts and warm wishes for the unhoused of purchasing throw blankets, socks, and shoes, and hats went very well today. And I did it in my district, James and Oak, and in January I will be doing another one in another area for the unhoused, and I was very pleased with the turnout of the unhoused and with the people that really helped me, and I want to thank you. You all know who you are.
Anything else?
That's it. And Merry Christmas to everyone. And I hope that you experience the joy of Jesus this season.
Broadway.
I'll just echo what Councilwoman Jones says. Wish everybody a Merry Christmas. But I also want us to make a special effort to thank our policemen, thank our firemen. These people, really anybody that's working Christmas, because Christmas is not a fun time when you're working and you're not at home. So thank these people, and thank them a lot. That's all I have, sir.
I just want to say I pray that everyone has a safe and enjoyable holiday season. I do also want to send my condolences to all those that have lost loved ones within the past year, and pray that we go into 2022 with an even greater outlook for our city's future. Finally, I'd like to shout out Mr. Tim Schaffner, who works with the engineering department, signs and markings, about a month ago. And I forgot to mention this. I saw him on a ladder scrubbing some street signs. Matter of fact, on my intersection, and I asked him what was he doing. And literally, they were cleaning the signs of the intersections and the streets because they said, you know, due to the shortage of funding, you know, they wanted to preserve what we had. So that really stood out to me, that they were literally cleaning street signs for visibility. So I just want to give the signs and marking department a shout out on that. So thank you.
Ms. Matthews?
I want to say happy holidays to everyone, a special happy holidays to District 4. Everyone be safe, and I look forward to seeing you in the new year.
Councilman Gaylor?
Just simply wishing everyone a wonderful conclusion to 2021 and an exciting 2022. We have an amazing team in this city. Those of you who make polite life available for the rest of us, thank you for all of the work that you do. And council, look forward to seeing all of you in January.
Councilman Aycock?
Yes, I attended Bob Waller's funeral today. Those of you, excuse me, who don't know Bob or didn't know Bob, Bob moved here in '62 as a teacher at Goldsboro and coach at Goldsboro High School, and moved on from there to Wayne Community, and then back to Goldsboro High School, and then back to Wayne Community again. But he served on several boards here in the city, the Boys Club, Boys and Girls Club, the Salvation Army, Red Cross, Guardian Ad Litem, and others. He was on the school board here when Goldsboro was a school board itself for 15 years, and then he served on this council for 10. The city will miss him.
Amen.
Thanks, sir. Councilman Aycock, Broadway mentioned the police. All of our city employees are commended for the jobs that they do. And this morning I had sort of a unique experience, unique in the sense that I don't do it very often, but I happened to be outside my house early I'd forgotten to put something in our garbage can before it was going to be picked up. And here comes the truck down the street, and I watched them as the two gentlemen on the back got off, and they went in the opposite side, come back, picked up garbage can, et cetera, et cetera. So I waited till they got to my house. And I went over and introduced myself to them and thanked them for the job they did. And they were really taken by the fact that the mayor would be out there at that time of the morning to thank them for the job that they do. And, you know, that meant a lot to me. It really, really did mean a lot to me that that their reaction to someone coming out and thanking them that early in the morning for the job they do. And it just instilled in me that we should do it more often. I mean, not get out there in front of your house at 6 o'clock in the morning, but necessarily, but if you see people out on the street, the city workers, stop and thank them for the job they do, because they, like a lot of professions, they do their job without a lot of gratitude by other people. So in this case, it was, I thought, really heartwarming to me, the reaction they had. And you spoke about Councilman Waller, so I'm not going to address that.
I did want to say one more thing. After
Sure.
the funeral, I told his son that if he didn't know it, Bob was the one who coaxed me into running for city council, but I forgave him a long time ago.
Well, okay, so, well, let me add my comments to other members of the council, and wishing everyone a Merry Christmas, a safe holidays, and I hope everyone gets through it without coming down with any Omicron or any other type of virus or flu, whatever might be floating around in the air. And we'll see you back here on January 10th. If there's no further business,
You have the resolution for Mr. Anderson?
oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. I do have a resolution. Thank you. I have a resolution expressing appreciation for services rendered by Guy Anderson As an employee of the city of Goldsboro for more than 13 years, by the way, I was just talking about showing appreciation to our employees. This is one. Whereas Guy, better known as Marty Anderson, retires on January 1, 2022 as a city engineer with the engineering department of the city of Goldsboro with more than 13 years of service. And whereas Marty began his career on January 2, 2008 as a civil engineer with the engineering department. And whereas on July 2, 2008, Marty was promoted to city engineer with the engineering department. And whereas on September 4, 2012, Marty took a leave of absence to serve his country in the United States military. And whereas on May 15, 2013, Marty returned from military leave to the position of city engineer with the engineering department where he has served until his retirement. And whereas Marty has proven himself to be a dedicated and efficient public servant who has gained the admiration and respect of his fellow workers and the citizens of the city of Goldsboro. And whereas the mayor and the city council of Goldsboro are desirous on behalf of themselves, city employees, and the citizens of the city of Goldsboro of expressing to Marty Anderson their deep appreciation and gratitude for the service rendered by him to the city over the years. Now, therefore, be resolved by the mayor and the city council of the city of Goldsboro that we express to Marty our best wishes for success, happiness, prosperity, and good health in the future, in his future endeavors. This resolution shall be incorporated into the official minutes of the city of Goldsboro and shall be in full force and effect from and after this 20th day of December 2021, December 21. I offer this resolution for adoption.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All in favor? Now, there being no further business, meeting is adjourned.